The views and content expressed on the following program are provided solely for informational and entertainment purposes. They do not constitute legal advice. A podcast is not a substitute for retaining a competent, licensed attorney to advise you on your specific legal situation. The views and content expressed on the following program are provided solely for informational and entertainment purposes. They do not constitute legal advice. A podcast is not a substitute for retaining a competent, licensed attorney to advise you on your specific legal situation. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the show. You are watching Break the Business, where we empower indie creators and have some fun along the way. I'm Ryan Kairalla, and it is a pleasure to have you here this week. I am joined by Evan and Elisa. Hi, guys.
Hi. Oh, hey. Hello.
Oh, so good to see you. Over the moon to see you as always. We got a lot of great stuff to talk about. We have a lot of topics to talk about, but I kind of want to go out of left field with something. Just because it just went across my Twitter feed right before we started, and it's apropos of nothing, and it's probably like a kind of a weird conversation for us to get into because it's sort of political, but okay. I'm just going to say this real quick. I'm just going to drop this here, and then we can move on to other proceedings. But
the personal is political. Let
me just say, I had no idea people cared so damn much about Dr. Seuss's back catalog.
Thank you.
I mean... I loved me some Seuss as much as the next guy. I read all of them, but honest to God, when they said the books that were being banned or whatever, I mean, and to think that I saw it on Mulberry Street. I had no idea Seuss had some serious fans of his deep cuts, man. Credit where credit is due.
Like Seasides.
all about McGilliott's Pool. and On Beyond Zebra. People will not countenance a world without On Beyond Zebra in it. Man, no one's coming after Green Eggs and Ham. Oh, the places you go, still in your library. It's all good. Anyway.
Nope.
Evan doesn't want to touch it.
Nope.
All I'm saying is I'm trying to get a reprint of the I'm not even going to mention it, but apparently he has had previous lewd work that is no longer in print that I would rather potentially check out. I don't know.
How lewd though? Because it's still Dr. Seuss.
Yeah, I mean, think about how about this?
Let's uncancel that.
No, well, I'm saying, how lewd could Dr. Seuss get? Just think of a Disney animator.
Yeah.
Come on.
Drawing dicks under the cover of My Little Mermaid.
If you had the power, why not use it to draw a dick?
And with that, we have a lot of great stuff to talk about that are not related to children's book articles or children's book authors that made our childhood magical and might have been an eensy bit racist. We have other great stuff too.
Gal, I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm. He knew where the sidewalk ended, and it did not end with problematic depictions of Asians.
I prefer coloring books.
Our guest this week, a true friend of Break the Business, love having her on. She actually guest hosted the show once, and every time we have her on, I learn so much from her. Katie Zaccardi is going to be joining us. She's a terrific musician. She's an artist coach. She's the host of the Out to Be podcast, which is all about helping musicians build sustainable careers, keeping track of their mental health, not falling apart while creating stuff. And yeah, obviously all the creators on this show have that figured out. So we're not going to learn anything from Katie Zaccardi.
No.
Yeah, she's all about the self-care. We can certainly use self-care. Speaking of self-care, I almost forgot. We have to bring this up. So quick story for you guys. All right. Lauren, the producer, texted me right before the show came on, and I'm just going to read this text on the air, okay? I'm just going to read it. She wrote, and by the way, these are the kind of texts I want to get. The kind of texts I don't want to get have to do with lawyer deadlines and court hearings I have to go to. These are the texts that Ryan likes. Quote, I am rescuing some baby duckies until I can find them a new home. Any interest in having me set up a duckling cam tonight? And as we saw from the intro to the show, there they are, the duckling cam. I mean, we don't even need Katie Zaccardi, right? That's all the self-care you need right there. Look at those precious little guys.
You don't need me or you.
Are you
Halftime's
not
over.
entertained? My goodness. They are. And by the way, like they must know that they're getting started in show business right now because they've been playing to the camera ever since that camera's been on them.
They were asleep before you switched to the wide. Now they're settling
frisky.
in and going to town.
Yeah. All the more reason why all the folks listening to the podcast right now, check out the live stream from time to time. You're missing out on some pretty good ducky goodness here. All right, so we'll keep the ducks around. We're gonna have them periodically make appearances throughout the show. Elisa is mime petting them as we speak. Look at, oh my goodness,
Oh, little foot.
All right,
Sorry.
let's compose ourselves. All right, to business at hand. A lot of great stuff to talk about. I want to start with a report in music business worldwide. They do their annual report where they basically analyze the data that comes out from the RIAA, the Recording Industry Association of America, about global recorded music industry revenues. Because every year that this release comes out, every year that the RIAA says, here's how we did this year, I always think back to something that my old entertainment law professor told me. Sort of this central idea of what we think the music industry was going to be. Obviously, late 20th, early 21st century is the peak of the recorded music industry, right? Like 1999 was basically the peak in terms of recorded music industry revenues. Albums were still a thing. Virgin Megastore was still a thing. Sam Goody was still a thing. People actually bought recorded music in $20 bursts in the form of these thing called albums that I guess is sort of a word that people know. I don't know.
On a compact disc.
And then, Napster showed up and LimeWire showed up and iTunes showed up. And that was the end of sort of the heyday of the music industry. But all the while, I remember I had a professor in law school who told me one day the day will come where the music industry will fully adapt to streaming and downloading, and we will replace the revenues that we lost from 1999. That the marketplace was going to fully adapt streaming and downloading, and we were going to make up everything we lost from the days of Sam Goody and Virgin Megastore.
Did they
And so
give you a
ever since he said
Give me a
that,
timeline on that? Like,
yeah, right? Well,
we
I mean, it's
fast
good that you bring that up.
Oh, good.
Every year since he said that, I check when this music industry revenue report comes out. I want to see how's my professor doing with his prediction. And so far, we haven't gotten there yet. But to my professor's credit, recorded music industry revenues for the last 10 years have been slowly growing. They haven't been to what they were in 1999, but there is upward trajectory. And this year is no exception. So revenues in the recorded music industry up 9.2%, up to just about $12 billion. And all forms of music streaming revenues are growing, whether it's ad-supported, subscription-based, all of that's growing. There is growth. More people are subscribing. More people are listening to music via streaming. Hopefully we're on our way back to partying like it's 1999 again. Except, here's the problem. For the first time in 5 years, recorded music industry revenues are suffering a decreasing increase in growth rate. So growth in revenues is decreasing. So it's growing, but not as much as it did previously. So last year, the revenues grew about 10 to 11%. This year, it grew 9%. And the 9% growth rate that it had is the lowest rate of growth in 5 years. And what business will, a basic principle of business is generally when what you want to see in a growing company is not just growth, but increase in the growth rate. You want to see that exponential curve. You don't want decreasing growth because that suggests that while it's growing, we might be hitting sort of
it's leveling off.
Plateau.
the top of the curve, the plateau. And so that might suggest that what this data suggests is that for the first time, we might be seeing the ceiling on the recorded music industry. And that ceiling ain't 1999.
That's better. I had a music industry teacher who once told me, this is post iPod but pre iPhone, told me that paying for ringtones is the future of the music industry. And I looked him in the face. I told him in class in front of 180 people, like, yeah, but don't you think like Apple's going to put out a phone next year or something and your ringtone can just be whatever? And he's like, that's never going to happen. And a year later.
Now, to your
Just gonna brag
professor's
for a second. Sorry.
to your professor's credit, he wasn't the only one who thought that ringtones,
Of course not.
those stupid god-awful ringtones, were going to save the music business. Oh, people aren't buying albums anymore, and we are burning record stores like Spec Music to the ground, and the tech companies are eating the industry's lunch, but ringtones are going to save us. In fact, we were so sure ringtones were going to be the next big thing in the industry. I remember there was a hot minute in Billboard magazine from like 04 to 05 where they actually had a separate ringtones chart.
Oh,
Yes.
wow.
Like an artist could be like, I'm number 4 on ringtones. I'm pretty sure if we just had the ducks squeaking for 5 seconds, record that, put it out as a ringtone, we're going to get a top 10 hit on that chart.
I kind of want you to pull up that chart. I want to know what was number one. Lisa's doing it.
No, just like what the number one.
The number one ringtone.
ringtone?
It's
Can we-
clearly the thong song, right? Like I don't.
Can we deputize somebody on that? Maybe Lauren. All right, Lauren's thumbs
yeah,
up. She's looking up. She's
All
going to
right.
give us some data on what the top
Yes.
ringtone. I guess this would have been Lauren like 04, 05, in case you're
Delicious.
wondering. If you're looking for like a nice reference year for when Billboard was ridiculous enough to think that people cared about what was charting on the ringtones chart. All right. But so it's not 1999. That's the point. And it doesn't seem like recorded music industry revenues are going to bring us back to the peak. And here's how bad the situation is, okay? In 2020, the global recorded music industry revenues are currently just 83% of what they were in 1999. And that is not
adjusted.
adjusted for inflation. Oh no. Oh, did you want me to adjust it for inflation? Hang on, let me do my beep boop boop beep boop boop boop. It's about 53% of what it was in 1999. So the recorded music industry, which your professor thought was going to be saved by ringtones, is half of what it was.
Hey, he was also your professor.
I
We'll
didn't
talk about
want to
him later.
admit that. I was hoping that you could completely take the bullet for that one. I love that guy. We're not going to mock that
I love
professor.
that
Guy's
guy.
great.
He's smart about everything else. He was just really, really wrong there.
Can I tell you a story about that professor?
Here we
Oh,
go.
No.
Without revealing names.
I got a beverage.
So,
Does it
college
involve Grammy
Ryan,
voting?
this won't come as a surprise. I remember. This won't come as a surprise to anybody who knows me or listens to this podcast. I was a bit of a talker in college, especially in college classes. It didn't matter that there could be 100 people in that class. I'm going to freaking contribute because I, for some reason, thought back then that what I had to say matters. And obviously now I've shed that belief and are much more quiet. But back then, was I a pain in the butt. And so, and I was certainly that way in this music business class with 90-something people in it with this professor. And so anyway, so that class was, when did we take that class, Evan? Like 10, 12 years ago? More than that?
2006.
Yeah. So,
Five,
oh my
I think.
God, that's sad. That's upsetting. You upsetted me just now by telling me how long ago that was. Yeah. So, there it is.
Oh, here we. Oh, hold on.
Okay.
Hold
So
on,
for
I
the
gotta
podcast
stretch.
listeners, Lauren just pulled up the top 10 polyphonic ringtones from 05. This chart is bonkers. So, okay.
I like
some
number
of these,
3 a lot, though.
yeah,
What
some
it-
of the takeaways from don't spoil it. Like,
What
let's,
a time capsule
yeah,
this is.
I mean, let's a little bit of foreplay here. Okay. This is like, we have to release this time release. Okay. So obviously a couple great takeaways. The fact that 50 Cent is on this chart twice with the
Yes.
number 1 and number 4 ringtone. And now Evan, sorry, I didn't want to jump on your thing. Tell us about what is number 3 on the chart.
Full 99-cent
Number
ringtone.
3 is Super Mario Brothers with an exclamation point.
It's just game theme.
Game theme. I mean, that's
Beating out, like, 50 Cent is number 4, Snoop Dogg number 5, Yin Yang Twins number 6. They're good. They're doing great. They're not Super Mario Brothers 1983 game theme good.
85, I think.
85.
Yeah, I'm not going to knock this though. Like, this chart is just one banger after another.
I mean,
Candy Shop, Lovers and Friends with Lil Jon,
The movie theme from Halloween?
Yeah.
Right into the Halloween theme, going into Gold Digger by Kanye West and We Belong Together by Mariah Carey. I mean, that's a jog right there. That gets me around the block on a jog, and I had a pretty good time with it.
But it doesn't, because they're just ringtones, so it's only like 8 or maybe 16 bars of each one of these tunes.
Okay, maybe it's a 100-meter dash then.
But if this person is being very awesome, you just assign each ringtone to a different person. You know, that's
make sure his friends call him in order too, because you don't want to get the order wrong.
It's $10 whole bucks.
I definitely want We Belong Together by Mariah Carey.
That's
She's
fair.
a national treasure.
That's fair.
Yes.
Freaking love her. Anyway, so wait, the story about the professor. So 15 years ago we had this class. Smash cut to like about a year ago. I'm walking with a colleague of mine down the hallways of the music school of the University of Miami, and we see that professor on the other side of the hall. And I just whisper to him, if he knows I'm going to go introduce myself to that professor. If he remembers my name, that will tell you how much of a pain in the ass I was, that he remembers me 15 years later from how annoying I must have been in that class.
Oh,
sure
because
enough,
wait.
we walked down.
Sorry, because I want to just put to this in some context, because I had a ton of classes with him, but the classes that you had with him were like 150, 180 person
massive lecture
rooms.
hall.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
And so, that's the context. So, like, obviously, if he were to remember me, that would suggest that I was annoyingly distinctive in that class. Sure enough, I walked down the hall, Ryan Kairalla. It's like, oh boy. Yeah.
I mean, you got an A though, right?
I mean, yeah.
I don't think you could do less than that. Actually.
I mean, just it wasn't an academically rigorous class, but it was really fun because I got to hang out with you the whole time. That was fun. That's true. And I think there were even some classes where like Elisa popped in and like she didn't even go to our school.
No, I didn't even go. I was, I was doing a reverse Mary Had a Little Lamb and following him to school one day. And apparently it was not against the rules. So
she actually sang in one of my ensembles once.
I did?
Yeah, you did.
In your music school?
Yeah. She would pop into R&B ensemble, and the teacher Chuck was the bad. He's like, hey, come up and sing.
Oh, I love Chucky.
Chucky B.
That's awesome.
I miss Chuck. I didn't even go to that school. I wanted to, though. I got in.
Go to our school.
I got in.
Oh, a commenter writes in, shout out to Orion's amazing suit.
Hey.
This amazing suit is brought to you by my wife's fashion sense and me being too lazy to button a shirt. So that's why this.
That's why you wear suits. Oh man, I've been doing it wrong all this time.
Well, suits over like a t-shirt, like I'm going to the club after this. All right. Before we go to break and bring in Katie Zaccardi for what I'm sure is going to be a pretty awesome interview, I want to try a new segment here on the show.
Oh,
we love to talk about pop culture on this show. It's our favorite thing when we're not talking about just the complete destruction of the industry in which we operate. We like to talk about pop culture. And I figured instead of sort of identifying like specific topics that we can go into and kind of being stuck in a box there, Elisa had an excellent idea of we should just sort of do like a recurring segment where we just talk about what all of us are watching or what all of us are playing and then use that as a jumping off point to talk about popular culture. So in that regard, let's do it, man. Elisa, what are you watching? What are you playing? What's on the top of your mind right now?
First off, thank you so much for giving a lady credit for her idea on Women's History Month. Thank you very much for doing that. Appreciate it. It's so rare. It's just, thank you. But yes, so I like to bounce back and forth between a bunch of stuff. But lately, Evan has actually gotten me into this, and sorry if I'm stealing your gig, but there's a game, by the way, Xbox Game Pass, one of the best deals in all of gaming, by the way. Game Pass Ultimate is fantastic. And I've actually gone through and downloaded a couple of things that were just on Game Pass and discovered games that I didn't think that I would enjoy. So the first Hitman is on Game Pass because Hitman 3 just came out. And so I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this. And I'm sort of like, on a scale of like 0 to slapstick, like how silly can I get in this game? Because for those folks that are unfamiliar with Hitman, you basically are an awesome assassin. You get a contract and you have a couple of targets and you have to go get them. And then they place you in a situation and you have to figure out using all of this stuff and the elements and tools at your disposal to try and take these folks out. And it is
It's dense.
Yeah, it is. It is less, really cool, awesome shooter. It's less James Bond that I'm doing here, and more like, Mr. Bean in a spy suit. It is kind of the way that I end up playing this game, and it's great, and I can't wait to revisit. I'm on the very last level of the first Hitman.
If it's the original Hitman, I'm guessing the graphics can't really be that
Oh,
realistic.
no.
So you must feel like you're just shooting polygons,
No,
right?
So
no.
It's Hitman 1 in the sense that there is a newer trilogy.
Yes.
So they just put out Hitman 3 in the new trilogy.
in the new
so
trilogy.
It's only 4 or 5
Yes.
years old or something like that.
Yes.
The commenter writes in, it's like Burn Notice, except you keep your job and your hair.
Of which there is none if you are Agent 47 in Hitman.
I was about to say, yeah.
But it's so much fun. And at first I was like, Ryan, as you pointed out, being a talker, I too am a former burnout, gifted kid, who is not a fan of failure. And so I was like, if this game is going to be too difficult, then I'm not going to have a good time. But you could do just the silliest things in this game, and it's so much fun. It's very good.
Murder your targets with a soup can. I mean,
yeah,
it's always
you
a good
just
time.
you could throw apples, cans of soup at people. Like it's great.
You always struck me as having somewhat of a cozy gamer streak, Elisa. I mean, like the Animal Crossing and things like, that kind of stuff. Like, you don't mind killing and shooting?
Oh, hun. I cut my teeth on Carmageddon and Doom and Duke Nukem 3D, baby. I sold Bulletstorm full clip edition for a gig, and that was some of the most fun I ever had in my life.
But yes, I also enjoy games like Animal Crossing. It's really, really fun.
I like long and boring games. I spent probably 4 hours today playing Flight Simulator 2020.
Hell yeah.
Wow.
Yo,
You're one of those people.
I've always been one of those people. And I went back and watched like a history of flight sim video on YouTube. And it's like, yep, had that one. That one came out like 89. I can't even tell that's a plane, but I'm flying it for sure. No, the new one is so good. I don't even have a joystick anymore. I had to get rid of it because it was broken. I've been playing on an Xbox controller on the PC. But that game is incredible, and I'm learning all kinds of things that I'm probably never going to get to use unless I'm a millionaire and I can buy a plane. But I can do ILS landings into Dubai, no problem. Like it's ridiculous.
It's
the
really
kinds
cool.
of things that I'm learning that have no practical application.
Yeah.
Which is kind of how I've spent my life.
Commenter writes in, are we going to see a comeback of the band name segment? Wow. I love band name ideas. I love where your head's at, commenter. Send us some band idea pictures. We will bring it back. Absolutely. I mean, that segment was a huge hit for the 5% of the folks who actually watch this podcast instead of listen to it, but absolutely. So Evan, like, how engrossed are you in flight simulator world? Because like I see these YouTube videos where it's like a whole bunch of people and they're all like listening to some guy who's on the control tower, and it's really hilarious. Are you like in that? Are you deep in?
So I'm not talking to live air traffic controllers. That is usually a paid service. And I don't have any money. So there is air traffic control built into the game. But the fun thing for me is just figuring out, I know how to operate a Garmin 3000 GPS. All the glass cockpit electronics inside of a plane. And I had a problem trying to figure out something in the sim. So I just Googled the manual and looked it up and answered the question. The sim has gotten so good that I don't need to figure out the answer in the sim. I can just go to the real life.
Read the actual manual for the thing that exists IRL.
And it's still glitchy and it's still broken to its own extent, but it's absurd how good this has gotten.
They're not joking with the flight simulator.
No.
I will ask. Because we have a friend.
Oh, yes.
Who has a plane.
My buddy Leland just bought another plane. He had to sell his last one. He just bought another one today.
If for whatever reason he had like a bad Taco Bell emergency, could you like fly the thing?
Absolutely. I am confident. No, and the funny thing is, like, if you tell that to a real pilot, they're going to laugh at you. I've never flown a plane. The feel is totally different from the simulator, but I know how it all works. And if if it gun to my head, could I land it? Yep.
Wow.
Definitely can. It ain't gonna look pretty, but I can do it.
So both of you ought to be ashamed of yourselves, because I'm asking you what you guys are playing, and what are you guys throwing at me? A bunch of games that are like a decade old. Not like me, who's been obsessed recently and replaying Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. What is wrong with us? Like, we're all playing the old games.
Yeah, but you're playing into your own stereotype, Ryan.
I know.
Are you learning anything?
I mean, kinda.
Look, we play Rocksmith. We have no room to talk.
That's true.
Well, Phoenix Wright, much like how I imagine playing, some like Flight Simulator might be frustrating if you're a pilot, except that game's actually pretty realistic, so maybe that's a bad example. There are a few things more frustrating than playing Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney as a practicing attorney. And by the way, so just to explain how this game is, it is like super, almost horrifically, like Dr. Seuss would have made this game Japanese, like just really stereotypical kind of anime sort of game. And you are an attorney, but you live in like this really weird world where like the Bill of Rights doesn't exist. And, trials happen like in 2 days, and you have to do your own detective work as the attorney. And like the Fifth Amendment isn't a thing. So the prosecution can make your defendant client testify against himself, and hearsay just doesn't exist. And, but it's such a, like, it's so ridiculous. And as an attorney, if you can just like tamp down all of your legal training and, the degree that you had to pay way too much money for, there is something really satisfying about watching, this sick, 32-bit character, like just shout the word objection and like point with like, yeah. And by the way, because this game is like, because it's like, the sort of a stereotypical Japanese game, like all the characters are like super ripped, except for the female characters, which are like almost unhealthily stacked. Yeah. And just like completely unrealistic body proportions. Like you could write a whole dissertation, Elisa, about how troubling the characters are depicted in this game. But like, just like to watch him sort of, point and just go objection. And it's so satisfying. And I mean, it's just a silly point and click game, but I'm probably going to keep playing it just because you get super into the silliness of it.
I guess you don't get to have any fun like in an actual courtroom, huh?
No, I mean,
so it's nice to just throw a chair every once in a while.
That's absolutely true. But I absolutely have Sam Waterston Law and Order envy, like, because I'm not a trial lawyer. If I ever set foot in a courtroom, I've done something really wrong and I'm probably in handcuffs. I'm a transactional lawyer, so I don't get to go to court. I've done one hearing in my whole life. It was a 5-minute hearing. I lost. I'm never doing it again. And so, yeah, I absolutely get to sort of live out, my crazy attorney trial fantasies through this video game. Absolutely.
Well, that's successful, I suppose.
Yeah. But it's so completely ridiculous. A commenter asks, what's the Fifth Amendment about? Yeah, that's you can't testify against yourself. You can't be forced to testify against yourself, I should say. And in this game, that doesn't exist. So the prosecution's like, I'm calling your defendant to the stand. You're like, what? Come on.
I object?
No? I object? Yeah, but you can't push the objection button for that, apparently.
Oh.
Katie Zaccardi coming up next. Thanks for watching Break the Business. Don't go anywhere. Ryan Kairalla here. I hope you're enjoying the show, and I hope that you're getting a lot out of it. I do what I do because I care about creators like you. A lot. I've dedicated my career to helping creative professionals, entrepreneurs, and organizations move forward. I do it by hosting this program, and I'm also proud to do it in my legal practice. If you're a creative professional looking for solutions-oriented legal services to help you further your goals, I'd love to help. My firm RKPA does contracts, commercial law, copyright, trademark, and more. Visit rkpalaw.com to learn more. That's rkpalaw.com. Ryan A. Kairalla, PA, Miami, Florida.
Streaming services for Break the Business provided by LEK Entertainment. LEK Entertainment is a full-service entertainment company offering everything from consultations to full-scale events and productions, including audio and video productions, voiceovers, staged theatrical productions, script and music development, and streaming services. For more information, visit lekentertainment.com. LEK Entertainment wants to help you bring your story to life.
Thanks for supporting Break the Business. If you have a question or topic that you want us to discuss, email us at breakthebusiness@gmail.com. You can follow the host, that's me, on Twitter at Ryan Kair, and you can follow the show at the BTB Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, and on all major podcast platforms. And now, let's get back to the show. Welcome back, everybody. Our guest on the program is one of my favorite humans in the entertainment industry. Love talking to this person. She is wonderful. She's a musician, a professional coach, and the host of the Out to Be podcast. She has devoted her career to creator wellness and helping artists have sustainable work in the entertainment industry. So who doesn't love that? Let's talk to our guest, Katie Zaccardi, here on Break the Business. Hi, Katie.
Hi, Ryan. I'm blushing after that intro. I love being on this podcast. It's so much fun every time.
Well, how do you like the visual component, which has now been added since you've been on the show? Are you loving the stream? Is this working for you?
Yeah, this is so cool. I've used StreamYard before over like the quarantine period. I did a couple virtual cabarets, which was really just fun, like musical theater stuff. Just totally nerding out for me. And I love the platform. I think this is so good for a podcast.
Now we need to hear more about the musical cabarets. Please. All right. Break this down for us. Because I, like you, are just learning about StreamYard here in quarantine.
Yeah.
And want to know all the ways that creators like you are using it to entertain people. What does one encounter in a cabaret on StreamYard?
So one of my clients actually put this together, and she's a vocal coach. And I think the first one she did was like in like March or April of last year at the beginning especially to like raise funds for people who were recently out of work. And she ended up doing 3 of them, but she basically just put together a group of performers to sing. And so the first one was a little bit more general where everyone just sang 2 songs from a show. You kind of picked it. The one in June, I think, was similar. And then in October, we did one that was Mean Girls / Halloween themed. And that was really fun. So I sang the song Sexy from Mean Girls, the musical. And I sang like some Avril Lavigne. So we really like took it back to 2003 and really just like embodied some musical theater and pop. Very on brand for what what you guys were talking about earlier with like the ringtones, just like getting into that vibe. But yeah, it was a great way to just, number one, for me, like it was really just fun, but get performers performing again since people weren't really able to do that, and to raise money for the people who were performing in it and for causes as well. So it was really fun. We used StreamYard to do it.
That's lovely. It's so great to hear about how creators are using these new platforms, finding new ways to not just entertain people, but also, it sounds like from what you're saying, to craft a sense of community among performers, keeping you guys together, keeping you guys working with each other. Gotta love everything about that. Katie, one of the reasons why I like having you on, and I think particularly with what everybody's going through right now, it's all the more appropriate, is your expertise in helping creators build sustainable music careers, embracing wellness, practicing self-care. As we were saying before you came in, obviously everybody on this stream right now, all your co-hosts, we're all experts and have no problems with our wellness. We are so sustainable and never have ever had any issues. But there might be others out there who could use a little help. Bring back the ducks. We need Yeah, there we go. So this is our self-care, by the way. We have this duck cam.
Oh my gosh.
Our producer is currently taking care of ducks. In fact, not that we want to upstage Katie, but can we put the ducks in the lead spot there? Because not that you're not wonderful, Katie. You're one of my favorite people in the industry, but how can any of us beat ducks right now?
They're so cute.
Yeah,
oh
this is our self-care.
I should get my puppy in here. I think maybe he could upstage them, but it would be a lot of chaos if I did that.
It's a cute off. It's going to happen. All right. That's all. Okay. So, let's keep the ducks. We'll just keep them there for now.
Just keep the ducks.
They're wonderful. They're making me happy. And while the ducks are hanging out, Katie, let me ask you more about artist wellness, musician wellness, particularly with what's going on right now in the pandemic. What is a wellness problem that you tend to see creators having the most right now?
So I think the biggest thing that's happening right now, and I should also mention that I started off purely as a wellness coach, and now I'm doing more just like overall business coaching, which includes a very holistic approach of mindset and wellness. The number one thing that holds people back right now is scarcity. So feeling scarcity of money and time. And scarcity of time is usually because of scarcity of money. So you want to get things done faster so that you have money in your pocket. And it totally makes sense given everything that we've experienced in this last year. However, it can breed a lot of burnout because it leads you to just like hustle, 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 neglect your sanity, and also get into this really negative mind space where you're kind of operating from a place of desperation and from a place of pushing and forcing. And when you kind of put all of that together of negative mindset, spending all of your hours working and just trying desperately to make something happen, it kind of is not. It's a recipe for disaster. I'll just put it that way.
Elisa's going to suffer a neck injury from all the nodding.
I can confirm the thing that Katie's talking about absolutely doesn't help anything. No.
Yeah.
That sound you're hearing, listeners, is our home being hit.
Because it hit home. I got it.
Yeah.
I'm in this picture and I don't like it.
Yeah. Well,
Thanks,
I mean,
Evan.
and it's nothing to like be ashamed of, but it is a reality that so many people are facing right now. But I also just want to bring to light that you have the control to change it, right? Like, and a lot of my clients recently have been struggling too with the idea of like, well, if I'm taking on a side hustle or if I'm working on like my music or like my voice teaching business or my coaching business to bring in money so that I can literally survive, but also so that I can support my career as a musician, I'm afraid that I'm going to lose my musicianship and I'm going to kind of stop creating or stop doing what I really want to do. And so the number one thing for me here is that you have the control, whether your mindset feels like it's getting away from you, whether you feel like you're in scarcity and you can't make money, or you're just afraid that you're going to get away from the things that you love. You have the control and you get to take control of the situation and make it a positive one as opposed to one that feels kind of gross and icky for you.
To the extent that what a lot of creators might be suffering from, at least partially, is a problem of mindset. How does one get their mindset back into the right place, especially with all the distractions and all the challenges that an artist is facing? How do you get sort of your mind right?
Yeah, such a good question. The first part of it is really acknowledging. As with many things that you want to overcome, you have to acknowledge that it's happening. So noticing your thoughts, like if you feel like you are in a really negative space, which can affect you physically. Like if you're feeling physically tired or physically unwell, or you're noticing that anytime you see a social media post or an email, you just get frustrated or angry, or you start to doubt, or you get nervous, or you have anxiety, right? Like any bodily things that are coming up or actual thoughts that are coming by, observe it, notice what's happening, maybe even write it down and just start to take stock and notice, all right, this is what happened, this is what triggered it, and this is what thought or feeling came up for me. You'll start to notice patterns and then be able to work through the actual thoughts and feelings that are coming up, as well as notice the triggers that are causing them and be able to maybe set boundaries there or work through the triggers in any way that you need possible. I'm obviously biased, and I think that getting a coach or having some sort of support is also a great way to work through it, because I personally am a very verbal processor. So having someone that you can just speak these to and work through it with is a great way to overcome things a little bit faster and speed up the process. But journaling, even like voice noting and working through things like on your phone, those are all great ways to get started with it.
Elisa, you're a pretty vibrant journaler with this stuff.
Yeah.
This
is for those that have the benefit of of watching on Twitch and YouTube and Facebook. We like to put my IKEA cart of journaling supplies behind me at all times because it's aesthetic. I have markers.
There is a whole journaling setup there,
and we have stickers, and it's in different folders, and they're organized by type.
I love that.
And I have two journals. I have like my regular planning journal, where I get the nitty gritty done, work out content ideas. And then I have my songwriting / I'm just going to yell out all my feelings, which then could turn into songs. So it's all, compressed in one book. So yeah, I got two journals.
I have one too. It says, I don't know if I can curse, so I'm just going to block that out. Business.
No, we got to see the curse. There.
Yeah. I got this in Vermont and I love it. And then I have all my stuff's here. I have this gratitude journal that my one coach gifted to me, and basically has you write out like, today I'm grateful for, and here's are the goals I'm working towards. And I think gratitude is a really good practice as well when you're feeling negative, to kind of get back into the things that are going well for you. And even though it might not feel like anything's going well for you, just noticing the things that you're grateful for can help to reframe your brain, because really that's what a lot of this is. Now, obviously, if you're experiencing some sort of trauma or trauma response, that's when you want to go see a therapist who can help you through that. But a lot of what we're experiencing is just stress and change and, you know, a natural reaction to feeling like, I'm not sure what's going to happen, and there's a lot of uncertainty, and I'm afraid that I'm not going to have the money or resources I need to get through this because things have changed. And if that's the case, you have the resources to be able to reframe those thoughts and like rework your mindset to go towards what you're grateful for, what is out there for you, and really see that potential instead of just focusing on what you don't have or how hard it is to get that.
Katie,
Wow.
I would say that, yeah.
I love that.
It's-
Hold on.
and
I'm going to take 30
and-
minutes and internalize everything you just
Well,
said.
and because I'm a teacher, practical example, something that I had to do kind of, you know, if we want to sort of realtalk.com this, it was changing my mindset from, damn, I can't go out to eat anymore like I used to. We can't go to our favorite restaurant anymore. And instead it's, wow, it's kind of cool that we have this challenge now to be able to feed ourselves and be able to like replace those things that we used to eat out. Now we get to like have the experiment of trying to make them at home. And it's sort of that like, I am grateful that I can cook for myself and feed myself.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, oh darn, you know, I can't, you know, get that baller meal we used to get like every other month or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Little things.
I'm coming for you, Lucia.
And it's such a practice. That's the thing too, is that I think a lot of people feel like, oh, I'm just supposed to sit down and meditate and my mind's supposed to be clear, or, oh, I just need to think positive. And there's a difference between the practice of like reframing your thoughts and working through your limiting beliefs versus just like toxic positivity. Like it's not just about being like, everything's great and everything's fine and like it's so good and actually you feel terrible. It's actually about noticing. So like I was on a walk with my dog the other day, and I must have gotten a message, or I was just thinking about like you know, potential client calls that I had and you know what's happening, and I sort of just had a thought of like, I wish it wasn't so hard to get clients, or like I wish this wasn't taking so long. And then I was like, okay, noted. Let me actually see if I can reframe that. And one powerful thing I've been doing lately is asking questions. So instead of using just positive affirmations, just saying like, why is it so easy for me to get clients? Or why is it so fun for me to do my job? Like stuff like that, where it's kind of like a manifestation technique that I'm trying out to, again, just notice the thoughts. Like I'm still having the thoughts. You're not going to be immune to other thoughts all the time, but having the power to say, I notice that that's not serving me. So how can I change the story here and notice that I'm feeling frustrated, but I have the ability to like let go of the timeline I'm attached to and trust it's going to work out, and challenge myself to think about another story here that's of better service to me.
Wow. Katie, I would say that every answer is just spinning
Smart.
gold here. We're just sort of,
Part of me feels like I came in and gave like no context, and now I'm like, here's how you rework your mind. But
Yeah.
but no,
Oh,
I
gosh.
think it is really powerful. Like it really is such a mental game we're playing right now, because with all the uncertainty, like I think mental wellness is such a big part of wellness, and that's what's hitting us hard, especially after like a year of all of the changes and not knowing when normal is going to be back. So
Katie, let me ask you about a wellness issue that is certainly something that existed well before the pandemic was a thing.
Yeah, how
and
you raise
probably-
17 ducks?
Yeah, that's
I have no idea.
well, shoot, that was what I was going to ask. No, a frequent thing that I hear come up with a lot of creators, as well as say this lawyer host, is fighting with imposter syndrome. Especially as musicians today aren't just musicians, or not just creators, but now you got to run your own business. You got to learn about marketing. You got to learn about handling money. It's easy to feel like I can't do all this. I'm not this other person I know online who's so much better. And I think with social media, the potential for imposter syndrome is magnified because you get to see the real-time statistics of other creators and that they have more followers than you. And you're only seeing them at their best on social media. So it's easy to think, man, they got it all together. When clients come to you having that feeling of imposter syndrome, how do you help them work through it?
Yeah. I love
Asking
this.
for a friend.
No, I love this because, and you bring up like, vanity metrics. Like I feel like a big part of where this shows up right now is on social media because it's easy to just swipe through and see how many followers does this person have, whatever. I went through and I literally removed so many followers from my Instagram and unfollowed so many people this past weekend because I am trying to create more community versus just worry about the metrics. And even I get in my head still of being like, this feels uncomfortable because what are people going to think when they come to my page and this person has more followers? But it is not about anyone else besides you. And it's really easy to get into the game of comparisonitis. But the truth is that you don't know, number one, how long that person has been in the business for or doing what they're doing, what their circumstances are behind the scenes. Like it's easy to look at the face value of what we're all presenting on social media, but like you don't know what's in their bank account. You don't know how happy they are. You don't know like what they're going through in the rest of their life and how the things that you value are maybe different than what they value. So it's really just like checking in with yourself and acknowledging what are my priorities? What is it that I am trying to accomplish? I know that a lot of imposter syndrome will come up with my clients when they're working on a specific goal and they see someone else doing a totally different goal, but having success in that. And they compare themselves like maybe a client is working on an album and they see someone getting a sync and they're like, I don't know why they're having so much success and I feel like I should be further along. Well, you're not even trying to get your music played. So why are you know what I mean? But like it's easy to see other people having success and just feel bad about yourself. But checking in and getting really grounded with what your priorities are and what your goals are and what you're actually working towards. And honestly, setting boundaries and like unfollowing or muting people who maybe aren't creating a good environment or are triggering like these kinds of thoughts within you. Like we do sometimes need to just create a place that's a little bit more healthy for us, honestly. Like you don't want to show up on social media and have it be filled with people who are making you feel bad. And while I do kind of subscribe to the belief that no one can make you feel a specific way, if you're working through things right now, and if you're working through imposter syndrome and you know that there's a certain creator or artist who you see who tends to like trigger those thoughts, like you got to cut that off. You have to set the boundary.
Oh, great stuff.
Wow.
So
we
good.
should really give you the opportunity to tell people where they can find more where this came from. Can you tell folks about your website and about the Out to Be podcast?
Yes. So you can connect with me on Instagram at Katie Zaccardi. My website is katiezaccardi.com. That has all the information about who I am, what I do, and how you can work with me, and the podcast as well. So my podcast is called the Out to Be Podcast. I notice it's usually easiest to find it if you just Google or search my name instead of Out to Be. So feel free to just search Katie Zaccardi and you will find it. But on the podcast, we talk about a lot of the things we talked about today. Music industry and career strategy. If you are a musician, a music teacher, or a music coach, this is 100% for you. We are talking about how to grow your strategy and make more money, or implement a strategy so you can make more money. And of course, supplementing it with lots of mindset and wellness goodies so that you feel fully supported and you can create a sustainable music career without burnout.
Love it. Again, that website is katiezaccardi.com. One last question before we let you go. Do you have any last tips for the indie creators out there to help them move their careers forward?
I know you ask this at the end of every episode, and this time it feels so different from the last times I've been on. I think the biggest piece of advice I could give is to really just take time this month as we enter March to focus on yourself and, on brand with what our discussion today, like figure out what it is that you want in your life and in your career without the pressure. I don't mean like in your whole life, but just like what you're desiring right now. That sounded really like big. What you're desiring right now in the next few months, and the environment and the energy that you want to create for yourself, and see if you can just do that like personal development work and internal work, because that is the work that is going to further your career. It's not just about strategy.
Love it. Katie, this has been awesome. Please come back. When you do, you'll see 23 full-grown ducks in the camera, and I know you don't want to miss that. This has been a real treat. Thank you so much for coming on this week.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I adore her. She's wonderful.
Yes.
Every time I've had her on.
You look like you've like blown back like 50 feet by all of that.
I love listening to people that are so smart, that can talk and words don't fail them, and they make cohesive sentences. That it's not that she talked good; she talked good, smart too, and I like her. Thank you, Katie.
Wait, we need. What was?
You can quote me on that. You just run it back.
Put it on the lower third.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to make sure we get that right.
No, just
talked
just
talked
rewind,
good,
rewind.
smart. We want to make sure that's on the lower third so that Katie can write it down, because she's going to want to put that on her website, like
I'm
right on
sure.
the about page for all the endorsements she
That's book
has.
flap fodder right there.
They're very good. Yes.
Talk good, smart.
Yes.
She does talk good, smart. I can't dispute that.
That's a t-shirt is what that is.
Yeah.
Talk.
That's a band name.
Oh, look forward to the next
Oh,
episode
band
of
name
Talk
ideas.
Good
Talk
Smart.
good, smart. Is Talk Good Smart? Is that our first like inside joke of the program? Can we like that's fabulous. Just gonna keep putting it up there. I don't know what's more adorable, the duck cam or Talk Good Smart. She does indeed talk good, smart, and I'm glad you guys enjoyed her as much as I do. I really like talking to her every time she comes on the program. Before we close for this week, I do want to mention that next week our guest is going to be Michael Renaud, the president of Hidden Pony Records and Management. We're going to talk to him about the future of recording agreements. Pretty important, since the recorded music industry is burning down all around us. We should probably figure out how we might fix it. But before we sign off entirely, do you guys watch the Golden Globes this weekend?
We did.
Oh, I did not. Tell me
yes,
about
yes,
it.
Yes, yes, we did. I don't know if you were around for it, but we did. It was on the laptop while we were playing Wreckfest. I think that was another thing that we've been playing lately. It was interesting because they tried to do that thing and they pivoted, and there were some things that went well. And I like the idea of like the sort of bi-coastal show with the two hosts, and then they kind of come together and they did their monologues together. You put Amy Poehler and Tina Fey in a room together, just press record and just let them go, and it's fine. It's also great because it was the Golden Globes, who are classically less buttoned up than the Oscars. So it's a good sort of first outing for a virtual show, because you kind of expect the Golden Globes to be kind of a shit show. And so it's kind of like, okay, we know what this show is. It was interesting because they tried to do a lot of the stuff that they do at classic award shows with like some jokes that just do not sort of land or whatever, and like some acceptance speeches didn't make it and people were muted, and it's weird because it was awkward, but it was the cool kind of like celebrities, they're just like us. Well, Jason Sudeikis.
Yeah, who was it?
Sudeikis. Exactly.
I mean, he really was
like,
just like us. Like, he was dressed like I dress, how I'm currently dressed from the waist down, basically, and you can't see it.
You wear a hoodie down there? That's
yes.
Interesting, Ryan. I like that.
The sleeves are the legs. It's good. I can't wait to see what they do in response with the Oscars.
The Oscars is all buttoned up and posh, and we'll have to.
Yeah.
Our Zoom calls are, I don't even know what.
I don't know.
There's
I
no
don't
joke
know.
here. It's just going to be boring if they don't try and make it funny.
Well, how did they do the monologue if they don't have laugh tracks? Like, if there's no audience to laugh, like, how do you do comedy
there
when
was
there's
an
no
audience,
laughing?
and I believe it
there was
was
an
an audience of, I think it was first responders in like distance, kind of like round tables, because the Golden Globes is the one where I think it's like it comes with dinner and people sit around a dinner table.
Oh yeah, because they want to get everybody good and drunk.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's why the Golden Globes are better, because they're more relaxed.
It is a better show. Like,
It is a better show.
I mean, the Academy Awards are obviously more prestigious, but I think year after year, the Golden Globes are always the better viewing experience.
Hard agree.
You know, I mean, it's especially because like what, you know, Amy Poehler and Tina Fey get away with, or what Ricky Gervais gets away with in terms of content and how close they get to the edge. You know, you can't get away with that stuff at the Academy Awards. And so it does create for a better viewing experience. I mean, I did see that one of the acceptance speeches, they were muted for part of it. That's kind
Yeah.
The first one.
The first
Yeah.
one.
And then they were muted, and then you heard somebody very clearly say, "Oh shit, he's muted."
It was great.
The television. We've reached the pinnacle of television.
It was great.
And then they went back to the host, and then they immediately went back to the person accepting the award because they wanted to let him give his speech. And I'm like, if they lean into this, things are broken and everything sucks right now.
Just
Like
go
it really
with it.
worked, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's the first Golden Globes I've ever watched, so I'm all on board. I'll
I
watch
mean,
it
how
next
were
year.
they muted? That seems like such a rookie mistake. Was the program on Zoom? Like, were the speeches
Yes!
on Zoom?
Yes, everybody accepting was in a
Everybody
video
was piped. It looked like this, except everybody was on Zoom. Everybody was using their laptop webcams. Now there were some people who came correct. Anna Taylor-Joy.
And it's I did see
also
that.
the entire Hudson Hahn Russell
Oh my
clan,
God.
Hollywood royalty, just like posted up like in one Zoom camera, just like hello.
No social distancing there.
It was great.
Yeah.
They're related.
So some of them had the like, yes, we know we're at an award show. We're gonna set up lighting. We're gonna whatever. And then some folks are just like, hey,
Jason's Steak is in a hoodie.
I'm in my living room, just chilling. But it's great. I
But it
like that kind of chaos, though.
It just seems weird to me that they would use Zoom, because this program, which I think has a less budget than the Golden Globes. I mean, we'll have to get the numbers out to be sure. We don't even do this on Zoom. Like, we've upgraded to like Zoom Plus with StreamYard, where like you at least get nice looking boxes and you don't have to worry about people accidentally being muted, because there can be somebody in the background to make sure you're not muted. Like, they can't at least rise to break the business level in terms of production quality.
There was a sort of streaming complaint that's like, it's March 2021. Like, by now, if you have a list of nominees and you can send them some sort of a nice little package that I'm sure every company under the sun has put together, some sort of like, work from home expert thing that comes with like a webcam and a nice mic and a nice
little Facebook
little
portal or
thing,
something
a little
like
thing.
that.
But no. Now, as someone who has produced shows, I'm if I were producing the show, I would want to make sure that everybody had like the same exact setup, to make sure that all the mics were nice and like all the audio quality, video quality was great. Especially because in this occasion, you had folks that were actually wearing like nice gowns and things to the show. Those things are probably still borrowed, just like any award show. You got to show the garment. It's got to look cute. Like this is important stuff. The viewer in me is like, if the idea is that you want to sort of break down some of the walls between celebrity and like the idea is that like authenticity, and the more you can show authenticity, the more you can really connect to a person. That was great.
That's how all award shows should be.
It was broken. It was awesome.
Beautiful.
So there you go. We have a heckler in the
Commenter
audience.
writes in to close us out: are the Globes better than the non-existent podcast award show, The Potties?
I believe you
wish
just
very
spoke
much
them into
that were a thing.
existence.
It needs to exist if it doesn't. Guys, thank you so much as always. Our thanks to all the listeners and viewers. Let's keep this. Oh gosh, and our thanks to the
Yes.
ducks on the
One
duck
more
cam.
check-in.
One more with the
Nap
checking with the
time
ducks.
in
Oh
Duck
yeah, now
Island.
they're asleep, of course, because we're done for the day. While you all admire the ducks, let me say you can please subscribe to Break the Business on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook. You can follow me on Twitter at Ryan Kair. Follow Evan at Evan Lamb Guitar. Follow Elisa at Elisa Rock Doc. Oh God, they're just so cute. I can't focus. All right, we're out of here. Thank you all so much for listening / watching. We'll see you next week on Break the Business. Bye-bye.